Hi, my name's Pete Hammond, and I'm very pleased and honored to be here today to moderate this session with Jada Pinkett Smith. All right. Okay, well, from a different world to Gotham, and in terms of movies, from Menace to Society to Madagascar and so many others, all the way to Magic Mike coming up July 1st. She's an author, an actress, a philanthropist, a very famous mother, a producer, a heavy metal musician. Who knew that would happen? But man, she's great. She's done it all, and she's still doing it all. She's won 5 Image Awards, numerous other awards, including a BET Comedy Award for playing a hippo. We'll ask her about that. Her career is now, believe it or not, in television and movies at the quarter-century mark this year. And there's no signs of slowing down. So please welcome Jada Pinkett Smith right here.
How you guys doing today? So nice to see all of you. Wow, thanks for coming out.
Right. Welcome to the SAG Foundation here. I heard you talking a little bit back there about when you might have gotten your SAG card, and I didn't even know. I didn't even see it on a list of credits that you had. But tell them where you got it.
Cagney and Lacey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What did you play on that?
I played a prostitute that had one line. They stopped me to ask me a question about something, and I leaned in the car, had one little line, and that was it.
Wow.
That was done, yeah.
And look what happened.
Look what happened.
That's good. Well, since we just saw Gotham here, and that's the very hot current show that you've been in, playing Fish Mooney, what a great name. Yeah.
Yeah.
And unusually for a comic book, she's an original character.
She's an original character. She was created specifically for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so that was one of the reasons why I was so interested in participating in Gotham, because, you know, I'm a comic book geek. So it was awesome to be able to have an opportunity to actually help create an original character that you know, was part of, you know, the legacy of Gotham. So that was really, I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I just couldn't give up.
And you have no ability, when it is an original, to go back to any of the comic books to see what happens to her, or where they take this character, right?
Absolutely, because, like I said, she was specifically created for the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she is one tough mama here. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Do you like playing bad?
I do. I love playing bad. I think that I had a lot of joy in that, and having an opportunity to have my own personal shadow, to have a place to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to actually have fun. And so I did enjoy that. I enjoy playing a bad girl.
Where do you find that as an actor? Where do you find that particular character? Because she's, I believe, very different than you.
Well, she's different, but you know, there are those shadow aspects of ourselves. You know what I mean? You don't have to go very far to find Fish. You know, it's kind of that aspect of your personality that you just prefer not to, you know, allow to live. But you know, that's what makes it so fun, because you know, those energies that are in the recesses of your mind and in your body, you have an opportunity to allow it to come out in a playful, safe way. Yeah. So it was actually, I found it a very healthy process.
How many people have actually seen other episodes of Gotham other than today? Okay, how many saw the one where she takes her eye out? Yeah, oh yeah, see, they know that one right away. That freaked me out.
Did it?
I mean, wow.
Yeah, it freaked me out when I read it, you know. But then I was like, absolutely. Once I started to realize Fish's need to be in control at all times, I realized why she would take such an extreme measure as taking out her own eye, you know, which is like, it's an awesome illumination of who this woman really is. Yeah. And so, I really took that opportunity on. Yeah.
What was that like to play that scene? Was that a tough thing to do?
You know what? It was a tough scene because I was very sick that day, and it's funny. I for some reason I hadn't realized that I was going to actually be doing, it was the first day we had come from a break. And I hadn't realized that it was that particular episode. And once I got to the set or got back to New York, and the day before realized, oh no, tomorrow I've got to take my eye out. And so, and so I'm on the set, and I have to tell you, you know, I mean, I had to pull that energy from places I didn't even know I had, and I was very lucky that I had, you know, so much support from the cast and from the crew. But we pulled it out. We made it happen. So it was awesome, and I actually had a good time with her. But yeah, it was hard. It wasn't an easy one.
Now you actually are a comic book fan. You actually created a comic book.
I created a comic book character called Menace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's kind of, you know, this girl who was caught up in some bad criminal activities, and she's murdered, but she has the opportunity to come back as a guardian angel to protect all the other youth that are still in the street, kind of doing not so great things, and she has the opportunity to become immortal. With the souls that she collects and brings light to, in order to bring light to her own soul, to redeem herself for the things that she's done in her life. So yeah, it was a pretty awesome idea.
When is that still in the development hopper? Is that a possibility to show up as a movie someday or something?
Maybe. You know, I was thinking about maybe developing it for Willow at some point. Maybe we'll see, or
so
some other young actress.
Originally,
you know
it was for you.
Originally, it was for me a very long time ago. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, you know, get a younger actress to play it. So maybe, you know, a young girl will pop up that will want to play Menace. But I think it's an awesome story, definitely, yeah.
That's cool. I mentioned 25 years since your first television work, which is hard to believe, quite frankly.
A trip? Yeah.
Don't look like it could be possible,
well,
I've got to tell you.
Yes,
but
it's been a long time. I've been out here a long time. I've been in this game a long time, since I was 18, 19 years old.
Wow. Now, how did you take us back even further? You grew up in Baltimore.
Yep.
And what was your parents, were they at all in the arts, or was there any kind of thing in the house that your mother or your grandmother or?
Yes, they were all visual artists.
Mm-hmm.
My mother sand paints, she makes jewelry. My grandmother was a oil painter. My father was pretty much a lot of things. I didn't really spend a lot of time with my dad, but he was a poet, actor, a writer, a singer. So I think a lot of my natural kind of pull towards the theater and music was through his blood, believe it or not. Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, and my poetry. And it's funny because my son is quite a poet, which, you know, I really feel like came through that Pinkett line as well. So even though I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him, he definitely flowed a lot of blessings my way. So I'm grateful for that, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. Now,
definitely.
your father was African American?
Yes.
And your mother from the Caribbean, or?
Oh yeah, but still.
Still, I mean, but from
African.
Yeah, but from that part of the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
West Indian. My grandmother was from Jamaica, and my grandfather was from Barbados.
Right.
And then they migrated here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you study acting in school, in high school, or
I did.
college?
We had Baltimore School for the Arts, and when I was in middle school, I actually went to a program after school at Baltimore School for the Arts. And then when I was eligible to audition for high school, I did, and I got into the high school and attended the high school, and then I went to North Carolina School for the Arts for a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And only just a year in North Carolina?
Only a year, because a lot of the training that I was getting at North Carolina School for the Arts, I really had a hardcore foundation at Baltimore School for the Arts. We had a very solid, strong theatrical program and dance program there. So I basically told my mom, I said, look, you got two options. I can go to LA and see if I can really do this, or I can go to law school.
Oh.
Yeah, and she said, I think we're going to go to L.A. Can you believe that? Yeah,
No,
my mother, that was her option.
I would have guessed she would have said law
Law
school.
school, right? No, and I'm telling you, I have to tell you, that was a very pivotal moment, because I would have done exactly what she said to do in that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, because I really didn't know, you know. I was like, should I go to LA? Should I go to law school? I could take my theatrics to, you know, to the courthouse. And, but she was like, no, you're gonna go, you're gonna go to Los Angeles, and we're gonna go this summer and see what happens. And I was here for 3 months, and within 3 months, I got my first gig.
Oh my God.
I was very
Do you want to
blessed
hear
in
that
that way.
story, huh? That's
Yeah. I got my first gig. It was, you know, I told you I got a pilot, but there was, you know, the whole SAG-AFTRA thing, and then that's when I got that little role, Cagney and Lacey, and then I was able to go through with the pilot, and the pilot was Moe's World, which is where I met Dwayne Martin and Tisha Campbell.
Oh.
Yeah, and they became my friends.
And Moe's World didn't sell, I guess.
Yeah, Moe's World didn't go.
Yeah.
But from that, I was able to
keep going.
Keep going.
Got an agent. How'd you get an agent?
let me tell you. Talk about some name dropping, right? So I had a friend that at the time was good friends with Keenan Ivory Wayans, okay? And I got to meet Keenan, and we became very good friends. I ended up doing Low Down Dirty Shame with Keenan.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I didn't have an agent.
Peaches, huh?
As Peaches,
Yeah.
right. I didn't have an agent yet. And I was like, you know, I was just going through, you know, the list of agencies, and I was like, I gotta get an agent. And so I literally called this one agent. Her name was Nancy Rainford. And I said, I'm a really good friend of Keenan Ivory Wayans, and he told me to call you specifically. And she's like this small agency on Melrose, but you know, she had Michael Rappaport at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she had Michael Rappaport at the time. So I said, he told me to call you specifically. You know, so I'm running this whole game, and she was like, really? She was like, well, why don't you come in and see me? So I went in to see her, you know, and I put on the jazz hands, you know. And she was like, you know what? I like you. I'm going to represent you. And I'm going to tell you, she was an awesome agent. She was an awesome agent. She had Michael Rappaport and I, and she started my career. She started my career. And then she eventually got out of the business, but she was the one that started my whole career.
And
but I got in the door because of Keenan's name.
That attitude,
That
too.
attitude. I was like, he told me you specifically.
That's good. That's
Isn't
actually
that good? Yeah.
That is actually something. That's great. I love that.
I did. Look, if it's not one thing Baltimore taught me, it definitely taught me how to hustle. I'll tell you that.
Speaking of Baltimore, at what point were you Miss Maryland? Were you not Miss Maryland?
I was Miss Maryland. I believe I was 12.
Oh,
Yeah, I was 12. Yeah.
really? Miss Maryland. That's a young Miss Maryland.
That was a young Miss Maryland. Definitely.
That's cool.
Definitely.
So
Hal
that was
Jackson, yep. Talented teen.
Okay, now so you did Doogie Howser
did
and
Doogie.
shows like that.
Yeah.
What'd you do on Doogie Howser?
I played a patient that one of the cast members fell in love with at the hospital. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I was looking at some of your early TV credits, and you know the 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, that was a good one with Holly Robinson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I
And
played
now-
a little gang member.
now
who
they've
was
turned it
trying to
into
get
s-
off the streets.
Oh. So how did you get? I mean, obviously everybody remembers A Different World, but that had to be the big break in terms of everybody knows who Jada is after that show.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because Tisha Campbell and I were really good friends at that time. And you know, it's always hard when you and your friends have to go up for the same role.
Right.
And there was a role on A Different World where there was a young woman who was in college who had AIDS. And that was the role that we were both auditioning for. And I was like, oh my gosh. Tisha Campbell's probably she's like a quadruple threat. She's probably the only actress in the world that I've ever been intimidated by is in regards to the audition room, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, we're going for this role. And I'm like, somebody's gonna come out and not have a role. So she went and auditioned. I went and auditioned. She got the role. But then Debbie Allen was like, I like you. I want you to come back tomorrow. I want you to meet the producers. So I sat down with the producers, and they said, we want to bring you back as a series regular and create a character for you.
Wow.
Yeah. So we both won, you know? We got the role, and I got a series regular.
A scene-stealing character,
yeah.
too. I mean, Lena's like, she was a great character to play.
Yeah, she was awesome. I enjoyed her as well. I was basically just playing myself.
Yeah?
But that's always good to have that opportunity to do that. I always see that as a great opportunity. Like when I look at Will, my husband, his first foot in the door in acting was playing himself as Fresh Prince. So I always look at that as a way to kind of build your skill, because actually being in front of the camera, it takes a minute to kind of build that muscle and learn how to work that muscle as far as being able to communicate different characters and characteristics of their character. So I feel really blessed to have had that opportunity, that my first major role was really just me being myself and learning how to exercise that muscle in front of the camera and then building it towards other.
Not everybody can do that, play, essentially what is yourself, though. I mean, that's a lot of the great stars. Movie stars, made it on sort of playing themselves.
That's
but
true.
It's a real art to do that.
It is, definitely, definitely, no doubt.
And how long did that run? 2, 3, 4 years? How many years?
I think I was on a different world for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. You did that.
We tried to do. They were thinking about doing a spin-off once, different world with the new cast, myself and some other characters, but that didn't go.
And it followed. I mean, at that time, it was following the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Which is the hottest show on
television. Because Different World was launched by Lisa Bonet. She'd gone off to college.
Right, exactly. So it was a perfect spin-off kind of thing there.
Absolutely.
Was Cosby a producer on it too? Did he have to say okay to you on the show? Or?
I think by that time, Debbie and Susan pretty much had it. Yeah, he pretty much trusted what they had.
You mentioned Will, who everybody knows who Will Smith is, but I heard you auditioned for Fresh Prince too.
I did.
As his girlfriend.
I did. I auditioned as his girlfriend. I'll never forget. It's funny because he was there. That must have been his thing, coming to the casting. Calls to see what, young girls were coming up in there. You know what I'm saying? And so he's sitting in, out in the hallway. So I walk in, and, the casting director, she looks at me, and she says, I'm doing my lines. And she said, you know what? You're just too short for Will. But thank you for coming in. And I was like, oh, all right. So I walked out, and Will was like, hey, shorty, let me talk to you. I was like, ain't nothing for us to talk about, homie. They already said, hey, you ain't got a role for me. Step in. But, and then over the years, he finally, I did A Different World, and then I did a couple of movies, and then he want to come, 4th season, 5th season, asking me to be his girlfriend again. He came down to Winston-Salem while I was doing a movie called Inkwell.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, will you come and be a serious regular on Fresh Prince? And at that time, I was like, I'm not trying to do television right now. And I'm glad that I said no, because we probably wouldn't be married now.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's how it all started, though.
Yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah, definitely.
And after Different World, you did go into movies. Was it Menace to Society?
I went into Menace to Society, yeah, and then I did Inkwell and Low Down Dirty Shame. Huh?
Which one?
Set It Off.
Set It Off was great.
Classic.
Oh, yeah.
Classic.
You and Queen Latifah.
Yeah,
and,
Vivica Fox.
Yeah,
Kimberly
that was
Elise.
amazing.
Yeah.
Bank robbers and all
They
of that.
keep trying to, I'm always getting asked to do Set It Off Part 2, but I'm just like, Queen, how do we bring her back? You can't do Set It Off Part 2 without her. She got lit up pretty good in that street. You know what I mean? Vivica too. I'm like, I'm gonna do Set It Off Part 2 without my girls. Everybody's gone.
Oh, it's the movies. We can find a way.
God, no.
You actually produced Queen Latifah's talk show that she just did, too.
Absolutely. And also Secret Life of Bees
Oh,
that
right,
she was
yeah.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, as a producer.
I love
yeah.
working with La. I try to work with her every chance I get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's cool. So you did Low Down, you mentioned Low Down Dirty Shame, and everybody thought you stole that one, too, as Peaches. You know, that must have been fun to do, though.
You know, I have to tell you, Keenan Ivory Wayans is probably the only director that understands my comedy, that can actually help me find what makes me funny, because he thinks I'm hilarious. So does Will, right?
Yeah.
But it's a you have to really kind of know me to know how to bring that side of me out. And so I've always been afraid to do more comedy, but I think I am. I think I'm gonna just start diving into that world again.
Oh, I hope so,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know you have a natural affinity for it. There's no
I do.
question.
I love it. You know, it's just a matter of being with somebody that can, you know, a director and producers that can really see what's funny,
Right.
how I'm funny, because you know, funny is such a personal thing. It really is. You know,
Comedy, they say comedy is the hardest thing
comedy is the hardest thing.
to make it work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not easy at all.
Yeah. And I always find the Oscars, other awards, you know, that don't have comedy, they always sort of discount it. They go like, yeah, but it's not that dramatic. And I think that's...
It is real. It's serious business. It's serious business. It's very specific. I mean, people that are funny, that's a real gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, real craft.
Okay, now I have every movie you ever made here, and I got to ask you about some of these. And I know everyone's, speaking of comedy, has to know what it was like to do The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy.
Oh, yeah. Eddie. That was a lot of fun. I had a good time with Eddie doing that.
That was amazing,
And Tom Shadyac.
And Tom Shadyac,
Yeah,
it was,
great director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was tough, too, because, look, Jerry Lewis did a classic movie as The Nutty Professor, and this was a complete reimagining of it. But with Eddie as all those different
He
characters.
murdered it. He was so good in that movie.
Yeah.
So talented.
So how do you walk onto a set there and do that? You know, you're opposite him and all that.
Oh, with pleasure.
Yeah.
And as a student, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Really, just being able to be with him and watch all his transitions and how he worked was really awesome.
Yeah.
You know, because I was still young in the game by then. And it's funny. I have a funny story about Eddie too, because, you know, he kept calling me about all these other different movies. It was like that vampire movie he did, Brooklyn, and
Oh, yeah,
that thing. And I was like, man, I can't do that movie, Eddie. He's like, come on, do this movie, Jada. I'm like, nah, I can't do that movie, Eddie. So when Nutty Professor finally came along and we got the opportunity to work together, it was a real pleasure, yeah. But it had been a couple of projects. He'd been like, come on, do this movie. And I'm like, nah, man, that's not the right one. Call me for the right one. And he finally did. Yeah, Nutty Professor came up. That was the right one.
Did you ever have any regrets of something you might have turned down like that might have been the right? Never.
Never.
Yeah.
Never, ever.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I haven't had any regrets, you know, and it's sometimes really hard. I'll tell you a funny story. I remember right before I got A Different World, I auditioned for Blossom. Do you
Oh.
remember the TV show
Absolutely,
Blossom?
yes.
Do you remember her friend, the young girl, her Six? I auditioned for Six, okay? And I had my hair up in a little ponytail with this little jumpsuit. I looked like I was about 12. Got the role, okay? Got the role to play Six. And I was like, I was 18, 19 years old then. I looked at my agent, Nancy Rainford. I said, Nancy, I can't do this. I just can't do it. I'm going to be miserable playing a 12-year-old on this show. I can't do this.
Right.
And we had to turn it down. And let me tell you, them folks were not happy. It's like, who does this girl think she is? You know, that whole thing. But within 2 weeks, I got A Different World. And that really taught me a lesson, which was, you know, to really listen to and follow my gut, because everything that shines isn't gold, you know what I mean? And so it really taught me a very valuable lesson to just stay true to myself. If there's nothing that I haven't learned about this business, it's really about staying true to why I'm here, why, I started acting in the first place, and what's important to me, and keeping my artistic integrity as well as my creative, like my personal integrity. And that was a big lesson for me. And let me tell you, that was not an easy thing to turn down. Being a young actress, you got this opportunity for, this series regular, this money, But I just felt deep down inside, I was like, something's coming your way, just fall back. And then I got to meet, Debbie Allen. Yeah.
I love this, a group of actors applauding for turning down a role.
Sometimes you have
It's
to,
good.
sometimes, you get opportunities and it's good to go out and exercise your muscle, but in here when something feels good and something feels right. And especially for, to be fair to the project itself. I don't think that you should go into something that you're not passionate about with a group of people that are very passionate about this idea or this project. That's not fair either. I would be doing them a disservice, not only myself. And so I was glad to have that. And trust me, those decisions haven't been easy. I've had a few along the way, and I've seen people take roles that I haven't taken and do a lot of great things, but at the end of the day, you still have to fall back and say, well, then that's what was meant to be, and all is well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's worked out.
It's worked out. Yeah.
One way or the other. And that's an interesting thing, too, though, at that age, to be able to...
Yeah.
And I bet your agent wasn't too happy, because...
You know what? It's funny. That's why I loved her so much, because she looked at me and she was like, I get it. Cool. Let's roll. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, she'd been with me and just kind of seeing how things were unfolding for me, and she was in agreement. Yeah, she was in agreement, and she was like a mentor for me in that way. I was very blessed to have Nancy by my side during that time, because she was really more interested in my development as an artist, and she wasn't looking to just make money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Off of me. Like, no, you got to take this, because, she gets her commission, And she really took good care of me. It was good that I had her in my youth, to really guide me in that way. Yeah. I feel very blessed to have had her.
That's hard to find in this business these days.
It's
hard. It's
hard.
gotten harder and harder, I think, now.
I think so. I think, when I first came to Hollywood, it was during a very special era where the door was just opening for actors like Halle Berry, Nia Long, Jada, Tisha, Will. You know what I mean? It was like this surge of young African American talent that the door was opening in a way in which was brand new. And so you had these kind of like little niches in regards to, like, you had these kind of boutique agencies, like how Nancy was, where it's just one woman who takes people she's passionate about. You know what I mean? And it's not just about the business. That, though there were those people there that were still had a keen eye for talent and really wanted to nurture that talent. Whereas now, I just don't think you have those pockets of people anymore that are passionate about artists.
Right.
Not just about the business, but are passionate about the creative soul of an artist.
Yeah. And now they just want to, they put you in a movie, they want you to sign for 7 more of the same movie.
Absolutely.
And, that's not going to, for an artist, that's a hard thing to do.
And the thing about it is, really just recognizing what we are. There's some of us that, and nothing's really wrong. It's just knowing where you stand. Because there's all different kinds of artists. There's all different ways to play this game. It's just a matter of us staying in line of how we want to play it, and how playing it makes us happy, and makes us feel fulfilled. But there are many different people and many different ways to play this game. I always just tell people, just make sure that you're playing this game in a way in which is fulfilling. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Is that what you tell your kids? Because obviously your kids are very successful in this, the whole family, you know, speaking of SAG
Let
here.
me tell you something about my kids. They really do what they want. Like, you know what I mean? They stay true to themselves. I mean, when I look at Willow, you know, at 9 years old, making the decision to not go into that pop. I mean, she had the world at her fingertips. And she said, I don't want that. She felt like it went against the integrity of her artistry. Yeah, and so she decided she wasn't going to put an album out. She decided she wanted to take time out to find herself as an artist. She didn't want adults telling her what kind of music she should be making and put this song out and wear your hair like this and wear these clothes. She was like, stop all this madness. I want to develop myself as an artist. And she stopped. I'm not going to do Annie. That's not who I am.
And you originally were developing that for her.
We sure were. I had a whole plan, man, for Miss Willow. I had a whole plan. I was like, we're going to do this. I had it all mapped out. And, you know, we had a very long conversation. I really had to look at my child and see that that direction was not going to make her happy, and it wasn't what she wanted. It didn't matter what I saw. It wasn't what she wanted. You know, and so we fell back. And now she's doing what she wants to do. She's directing her own videos. She's producing her own songs. She's making her own music. She's doing her. Same with Jaden.
Yeah.
You know, they decided to take by the ropes their creative voice. And, you know, I couldn't be more proud as a mother. You know what I mean? Because I tell you, that saying that kids don't do what you say, but they do what you do, boom.
Yeah. That's that's true.
You know, boom. So I'm really proud of them, and you know, it's been hard as a mother to watch certain decisions that they've made, but I bet you it was hard for people to sit back and watch certain decisions I've made too. You know, just like you said, probably Nancy, you know, she went with me, along with me when I turned down Blossom, but I'm sure her heart was breaking at the same time, you know? So, you know, it's like, but that's part of it. You just got to trust. And at the end of the day, all of this belongs to a power higher than us anyway. So what will be, and all will be well.
Yeah. Yeah. Did they come to you and Will and say, we want to follow you into the business, or was that, like you said, I have a plan for them? Because a lot of parents in the business say, oh, the last thing I want them to do is what I do, because I see how really hard it can be.
Well, you know what? Life is hard.
Yeah.
So whether they decided they wanted to be firemen, policemen, doctors, teachers, this world right here is not easy to live in. Yeah. So really, at the end of the day, it was finding their passions. And a funny story, so I'm sitting at the table with Will, and he's talking about Pursuit of Happiness. They were having the hardest time finding the little boy for Pursuit of Happiness. And all of a sudden, Jaden said, I'll audition, Daddy. And I looked at him, and I looked to Will, and at first, Will was just looking like, you know, and I said, Will, I'm telling you, ain't nobody gonna beat him. So it became kind of a game at first. Will was like, all right, audition. And let me tell you, they tried their best. You know, at first, Sony did not want Jaden. They didn't, because, you know, people think because you have famous parents it's easier. It actually isn't. Right. People actually, you know, feel like, you know, that people don't want that backlash that comes, right? So the idea of having Jaden play Will's son in a movie was not appealing to Sony. But the real deal was they couldn't find anybody else that could beat him.
Right.
They made him audition like 7 times. It got to the point where I said, look, they either want him or they don't. He's not auditioning not one more time. He's not auditioning. That's it. You know? And finally, they had to surrender. And they were like, okay, Jaden, you know, but, you know, people think. But then once you get into the door, yes, I looked at my kids and I said, you know, Will really looked at Jaden and was like, I see this for Jaden's movie career. And then when Willow was like, I want to sing, and then when my hair came out, I was like, okay. I was like, I got Willow's plan. We gonna do this. And then, you know, as they grew up, they got more understanding and became more individuals. They both decided, we got this, Mom and Dad. And me and Will had to look at each other and go, they got it. We had our stuff. We didn't let nobody get in the middle of our stuff, did we?
That's it, yeah.
No, we didn't. Fly, little birdies, fly. You know? So, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Now, you know, it's so clear in talking to you that you're very much in charge of what you want to be and know where you want to go. And that's why you have a career of so many facets, which is interesting. First, as a producer here, you really seem like a hardball producer to me.
Well,
you know?
You know, I guess hardball in the sense of like, I like being there for artists. I love talent. I love artists.
Yeah.
So I love fighting for artists. Like Latifah, I just wanted her to have the best.
Yeah.
You know, I just, you know, to me, when we did the Queen Latifah show, I wanted everything to be queenly for her. The sets, the aesthetics, her look, the colors, everything. I was just like, this has got to represent how I feel about La and how I believe people feel about her, and what this should represent. And even in talking to her, and what do you want to say to the world, La? What do you want to say to the world? Why are you here? You know what I mean? And really being there to help an artist communicate their artistry. That's what I like doing as a producer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So no matter what artist I'm working with, and you can imagine how crazy it could get sometimes when you have kids who are artists, which is why you really have to fall back. But, you know, that kind of wanting to facilitate creativity and facilitate artists. I love artists. There's nothing that brings me more joy than to facilitate art. You know what I mean? And so as a producer, if that makes me, you know, kind of that hardcore producer, I'll take it.
Yeah, well, that's what it takes too, you know, because you
Yeah.
got a vision and you know.
Absolutely.
And you come from that. You come from the art.
Yeah.
So you know what.
And really being able to hear what that artist wants and to really help that artist get that thing, you know, or get that platform. And so, you know, with each project that I'm blessed to be able to produce, I learn how to do that more and more.
Do you like doing the, you know, you've had very big success in big studio pictures, like Annie was a big success this Christmas season, and the Karate Kid.
Karate Kid.
You know, I mean, you're taking these beloved kind of franchises that were there and renewing them and making them work again, which is very, very hard.
That's something we really like to do. We really do. Overbrook, Will and I, and James Lasseter. Karate Kid being the one that we really, because that was a classic for us all, you know, and then when you have your son in it, it's just like, right? So, but that one was really, really important, and we worked really hard as a family with that project. You know, you find what everybody's strengths are. That's the thing that I've learned as far as producing. When you have your producerial team, you recognize who has what strength, okay? And then in my mind, I kind of allow that person to be the leader of that position. I might flow my thoughts, but at the end of the day, I go, okay, Will has the last word on this piece right here, because in regards to everybody else in this group, he has the most authority, the most understanding, the most knowledge. Okay, Ken Stovitz, who is one of our producers too, he has the most knowledge in this area, and then myself, right? And so then you just learn how to have respect, you know, for everybody that's there and for the strength that those people have, and they have respect for you, for your strength. And I think that was the biggest piece I learned on Karate Kid, and it was very important because it was deeply emotional and personal because it was starring Jaden.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you have both of his parents, you have, you know, people who have raised him, helped raised him, also producing. So it was really finding that kind of understanding in producing that movie to keep all the emotions and keep the clarity. But I have to say that's one of the projects I'm most proud of, as well as Fella, the musical that we did.
Oh yeah, which
on
was
Broadway.
wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, Fella.
Which played here twice, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw it
Fella
at
was
it was
another
at
one.
the Ahmanson. Yeah.
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 And I love being in partnership with Jay-Z too, because Jay-Z, he loves artists as well. He loves to facilitate artists.
Yeah.
And so we've always had beautiful partnerships with Jay's company and with him because we
If you
have
had
that
to
same
choose one, you know,
philosophy.
producing, you're an author, you're an actress, you're everything. You know, what satisfies you the most in this business right now? What's the thing you want to?
I have to say that Fish Mooney definitely brought me back to the love of acting. Yeah, I
You
lost
could tell
it.
too, because
Yeah.
it's a great role. Too.
I lost it for a minute there. I didn't know if I would be acting again. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, oh, I'll just produce but Fish Mooney definitely brought me back to the love of acting.
You did some, I mean, you know, talk about the love of acting. I don't know, you know, when you did the Matrix pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like was tough. That was martial arts, and that was a lot of.
It was a good kind of tough though.
Was it? And you had to go to Australia
I went to Australia for a year, yeah, and but I loved doing the Matrix. You know, they wanted Will to play Neo for the first one. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they wanted Will to play, and that's how I got introduced to the project. That's where I met the Wachowskis, and I was like, "This right here is the bomb. I can't believe you can't understand. I need you to look at these photos, Will. I need you to see what they put together here. This is gonna be awesome." And he was like, "I don't see it."
Oh no! Really?
You know, yeah. And I was like, "I see it." And so then Keanu came, who was perfect, mind you.
Yes,
I
right.
mean, I know they wanted him at Will at first, but there's no better Neo than Keanu. And then I auditioned for Trinity.
Ah.
And it's funny, I auditioned for Trinity. That's probably the only role ever that I feel like, I didn't get Trinity. But Carrie Ann was the best. You know, I could never have done what she did, ever. They made such a beautiful choice in getting Carrie Ann. And so then the Wachowskis, when they did number 2 and number 3, they created Niobe, my character, so that I could come back and participate. Yeah.
Which is so cool.
It's so cool. I'm so glad that they did that because I love the project so much, you know.
I'm curious, as a family, though, you know, when you know you've got to go, they shot those back to back, right?
Yes.
Those sort of one, yeah. When you know you got to go to Australia for a year, does everybody go with you? How do you do it?
Oh yeah, the kids were with me, and you know, the crazy part was that Will was shooting Ali.
Ah, which
Yeah.
you were in too.
I was
though.
in Ali. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so he was shooting Ali, and so he was flying back and forth from like Africa and Los Angeles to Australia.
Oh, wow.
But when you're young, you just do it. You know what I mean? When you're young and you full of love, you just do it.
You just go.
You just go. You know, so, you know, I think back now, like, how in the world did we do it? But we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you've directed, not that much, but you
No.
directed The Human Contract,
Directed to Human Contract.
which went to
music
Cannes, and
yeah.
yeah.
Did music videos, done a
Right.
couple music videos, which I love to do.
So is that something you want to do more of?
I do, eventually. Eventually, I really do. I think I have a bit more to learn. But I'll definitely be jumping behind the camera at some point, no doubt.
Yeah. But it's acting now. You've got the acting bug again, I can tell right
I got
now.
the acting bug again, definitely. Yeah.
This has sparked it. Of course, you did Hawthorne, which we've sat and talked about before, and you also were a producer on that as well.
I had a good time on that one. Well, I did some crazy stuff on Hawthorne.
Yeah, well.
I did some crazy stuff. I'm talking about behind the scenes. Just, you know. We had, I think, one of my favorite days on Hawthorne, and this might have been one of the reasons why TNT was like, we can't mess with her. We didn't have, it was a scene, it was a third season, it was a scene that I had with the psychiatrist, and you know, I'm in this love struggle between Nick Renata and Tom. And I'm going to this therapist, and the scene wasn't written. We didn't have anything to shoot that day, and we improv'd it. We improv'd it. I looked to the camera crew, and I said, we're gonna shoot this thing. It's gonna be an improv. And I need for everybody to be on their creative toes, because we're going to do this thing, and we're going to do it on the fly. And let me tell you something. Me and the crew, we had so much fun. It was probably one of the best days, creative days of my life. But you can imagine how the studio and TNT were like, she's doing what? We haven't approved anything. We don't know. What is she doing? I said, we're going to shoot this thing. We're going to shoot this thing right here. And we had so much fun. We so enjoyed. The crew was like, we've never had the opportunity to do something like that again before, you know?
Oh, my God.
And so, you know, it was an improv day. And it was fantastic to be able to have that kind of creative freedom. But I'm sure that TNT was like, that's it for that. That's it for that. But we had a ball.
But it worked out.
It worked out. It worked out. And we had a ball. We really had a good time. That was a ballsy thing to do. But we had fun.
Well, it's a medical series. You do it week in and week out. Is it the rigidity of series television, you know, kind of constricting? So this would open it up for you, I think, and make it fun, right?
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes, you know, there's a lot of different, you know, a lot of different voices and people that have a lot of input on these television shows, but sometimes it can be a little rigid, you know, where you really do need probably not that kind of fluidity, not having a script at all, but to just have an opportunity to, you know, especially once you get to know a character and characters get to know each other within, you know, a show or within a scene, to be able to just kind of flow a little bit, you know, to just kind of loosen up and see what you can find beyond sometimes when you have writers in the writer's room that's just tired and putting just anything on the page, you know what I mean? And so, and I felt like we got that on Gotham too, which was really nice.
Yeah.
I felt like that Bruno really gave us room to kind of find that voice, especially for Fish, because we were all finding her throughout the season, you know what I mean? And so I didn't feel that kind of rigid. I felt like I had more fluidity on Gotham to kind of, you know, be creative and improv sometimes.
You've been very fortunate, too. If a lot of people have a hard time finding one hit series, you've had several that have had several seasons runs, from Hawthorne and Different World, and, you know, Gotham's obviously continuing, too. You've got the magic touch when it comes to, you know, picking your pilots or picking the TV
I wish
shows.
I could take all that credit. But I definitely, you know, have a team that I trust that, you know, they look at certain projects and they go, Jada, I really think, you know, this is something for you to look at. But I think I've really had, the biggest blessing has been the people that I've been able to work with. I've been really blessed in this business to work with really creative, talented people, you know. And I think that has been the biggest blessing of all.
What was Spike Lee like to work with?
I love Spike.
Bamboozled.
Yeah, Spike is one, Spike is awesome because Spike, he really gives you, the reason why he hires you is because he trusts your instincts. So that's what he's really depending on. You go in front of that camera, he says action and cut, and he's looking at you and he's like, what do you think about that? What do you feel about this moment? What do you think you should, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's see. So, working with Spike was awesome, to have that kind of creative flexibility once again.
That movie was wild.
It was wild.
I liked it a lot,
yeah,
actually.
it was wild. That was a ballsy one, too.
It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah.
How many saw Bamboozled?
Yeah.
Do you remember Bamboozled?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy. One of my favorites, and you actually have done it 3 times now, and I mentioned it in the intro, Gloria.
Yes.
The hippo. I love the Madagascar movies. They're so much fun. The cast, it's a voice cast, obviously, but, Chris Rock, all of you.
Ben.
It's so good. Ben Stiller, everybody. What's that like as an actor to go into doing that kind of voice work?
It's so funny. That was kind of hard at first. 'Cause I was like, what is this? I don't have any actors with me. You're just in this booth, and you're just reading these lines. And it really took me a minute to kind of get into the flow of that, that I didn't understand the process at first. I tell you what, I auditioned for Lion King, right? And I didn't understand that my voice didn't need to sound like a lion. Right? They're like, no, we just need you in your regular voice. But I'm like, it's a lion. Like, what do you mean in my regular voice? But that was like my first time, dealing with animation, right? So at least by the time I got to the hippo, I realized that she doesn't actually have to sound like a hippo.
So you went in and actually did a lion?
I was like, yes. I was actually gonna try it. I was like, I'm even too embarrassed to even show you what I did. I'm hoping they burn that tape somewhere. But yeah, I actually was trying to talk like a lion.
Had you ever seen an animated
I know, you would think, what is wrong with her? Yeah, for some reason, I'm like, well, if they're asking me to come in here, and no, it's not. It's just you, your regular voice. Needless to say, I didn't get that role either.
But Gloria lives on.
And, Gloria lives on.
Yeah, it has a lot of fans out there too.
Yep.
I hope. Are they doing another one, or do you know? Or
yeah, Jeffrey says that we might do a 4th one.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great franchise. So, in the midst of all of this, Wicked Wisdom comes along, and you're doing metal.
Metal. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I imagine at the beginning of that, people said, "What is she thinking?" or "What is she?" You know.
Yeah, I got it from all sides. Everybody was like, "What the hell is wrong with Jada?" But it was, one of the things that I love. One of the purposes of why I became an artist is to have the opportunity to break boundaries. Right.
Right.
It's one of the things that I really enjoy, being able to use art in a way in which to break those boundaries and break out of those boxes that we create for ourselves and others create for us. And I've always loved metal music. And the only reason why I didn't do metal music was because I'd always been told, because I was black and because I was female, that it was a genre that wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And I just got sick of that. I was like, that's just not true. That's just not true. And so I decided to go on tour as a metal artist.
I'm just curious, what did Will think about this career decision?
He was like, Lord have mercy. But me being his wife, he was just like, okay, I'm going to take this journey with you. I'm going to take this journey. And I learned so much. And it wasn't even really about being a metal artist versus just being a person who loves metal music, if that makes any sense, you know, and being able to get out into the world and whatever, you know, that particular genre might have thought of me, being black female in Hollywood, whatever they thought that picture, or even what they think the persona of Jada is, you know, to be able to go out in the world. And I'm telling you, I was in cornfields performing, like, you know, stages made out of milk crates, you know what I mean? Like that kind of, and it was awesome because I really got to see my country. I really got to see middle America. I got to touch people that I would have never been able to touch just doing what I do as the persona of Jada Pinkett Smith, the actress, you know.
Well, how'd you put this band together?
I just decided that I was going to do this music, and it went through a lot of different transformations in finding those musicians. You know, I had one band, and then it transformed into another band, and then it transformed into another band. You know, so it was just about getting into it and then refining it as I went along. Yeah.
Well, and you opened for Britney, I guess, in
yeah,
Europe?
in another form, in its first form. But you know, we've gone out with and performed with groups like Skindred. We were at a festival with Metallica.
Wow.
We did Ozfest.
Ozfest,
with Kill
yeah.
Switch Engage as a headliner.
Wow.
Oh yeah, when I stopped, we were about to open for Guns N' Roses.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we were about to open for Guns N' Roses, but Jaden got Pursuit of Happiness. Mm-hmm. And as a mother, it was just no way I was gonna let my son, you know, do his first movie without his mother on set.
Oh.
So I had to let that go.
So you had to give up the metal career.
I had to give up that tour, which ended up, you know, pretty much, because I was on a roll. So I pretty much kind of, after that, I realized once the kids started, you know, moving into this, you know, music doesn't like being a mistress to anyone. She doesn't play that. She's like, you either dedicate yourself to me or roll. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'll do a couple of gigs here and there. I did Afro Punk about 2 years ago. And, you know, I do gigs here and there with my band. We go out.
I think
but
that's so cool.
I'm not, you know, we're not on the road like we used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do so many unexpected things, and starting July 1st, you're going to be in Magic Mike's sequel.
Yep.
Yeah. But does anybody know what she's playing? Because I do, and I was very surprised. I haven't seen it yet, and I can't wait. But
Right.
Tell them what you're doing in this movie.
Well, basically, she's an MC for the boys.
So sort of the Matthew McConaughey, he's not in this one.
Yeah.
That's
kind
such
of
an unusual idea, I think, to do it that way.
It was. And I mean, when I first got the role, it was written for a guy. Channing and Gregory Skyped me and said, we know you got the script and it's written for a guy, but we'd like you to play this role. And I said, okay, all right, let me look at this. And, you know, then I kind of created in my head what I thought it should look like, and you know, got with Channing and Reed and Gregory and Steven, and everybody was in agreement. And I went to Savannah. We had a good old funky time. We had a good time.
What kind of research do you do for a role like that?
You know, what was funny is that I had done a whole lot of research. When the interesting part is that I had just come from Atlanta doing a documentary about trafficking, human trafficking. And one of the segments was about how strip clubs can be a gateway for human trafficking. So the fact that Channing called me about this movie was very interesting. And I said, you know what, this could be an opportunity to help bring a whole different kind of energy to this particular industry, right? There's a level of elevation that can be brought to this kind of entertainment. And that's what we did. We made it celebratory. We made it, you know, a movie in which men and women are honoring and respecting one another within this erotic, sensual play. which is what it should be if you're going to engage in those kinds of activities. And so what I realized is that it's not about pole dancing that's the problem. It's about the energy in which people bring to certain, areas of pole dancing. I mean, we have women all over the country who are paying to pole dance to stay in shape.
Yeah, I was going to say that's big.
Find, that sensual energy or language within herself that might be hidden. And then you have women who pole dance that get paid. So what's the difference? Yeah. Why isn't there any trafficking happening in the gyms and where these women are taking pole dancing for exercises versus in these strip clubs? Well, it's about the energy that you bring. Okay, well then let's raise the energy. Let's elevate what is happening in these areas, and let's really examine what's going on, because it's going to exist. So if it's going to exist, we might as well bring light to it. And there is a way in which men and women can delve in those energies and in those kind of activities together, playfully and with much respect. And so that was the whole purpose of getting involved with Magic Mike.
Cool. I can't wait to see it.
It's gonna be fun. You're gonna have a good time.
I love the first one.
Oh, good.
So was Soderbergh sort of a?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He didn't direct this, though.
He didn't direct it, but he was the cameraman.
He was.
Yes, he was there, and he would edit every day. He had an editing room where he would invite everybody to come up and look at it and give their notes. And yeah, it was awesome. I never made it to the editing room because I was doing Gotham and Magic Mike at the same time. So I was flying back and forth. I was exhausted, but he was like, basically looking at me like, you got an opportunity to sit with me and watch me edit and you not coming up. Which was true. I just, no. Next time, that means you got to hire me again.
Yeah. All right, now we have some of you wrote out some questions before earlier, and so I'm going to read them. The first one is from Maya. Maya, where are you?
Oh, which Maya?
Oh, I can't read the last. D. Yeah, there you go. Okay. What was the most important life-changing moment in your career?
Most important life-changing moment in my career. I guess it was that Blossom story I told you about. Just really learning how to stay in contact with that artistic integrity. That has been the most important and the most challenging to stick to. Yeah.
Follow that. That's an early lesson that you learned. I mean, very early on that you've carried on.
Absolutely.
It's great. Maddie Castano, right there, right here in the front. Okay.
Hey.
Do you have a daily routine to evolve and improve as an artist? Something you do every day that keeps your juices going, I guess.
I definitely try to submerge myself in art, right? So I'm always inspired by artists, whether it's new music, whether it's visual artists, whether it's like fashion, anything creative. I try to, every day find something artistic and creative to be in awe of, so that I'm inspired by it. Because funny enough, it keeps me reaching for those higher artistic strands within myself, to want to be better, want to be more, that we've never arrived. That's the thing. We've never arrived. You never get to a point where you like, I got this. The acting thing, locked in. Singing, whatever your creative love may be, we have never arrived. So art, when I see art and I see different levels and stages of artists, I realize, okay, keep reaching. Mm-hmm. I'm inspired by that.
Right. Speaking of that, when you keep reaching, is there something you really want to do and nobody's going to let you do it? You just got this one thing. I said, I'm going to convince somebody one day this is going to be it.
No, it's so funny. I think at this stage of my life, I have no real... I think the thing that Gotham taught me I have no real ambition, right? Because I realize that when I lock myself on an ambition, and this is a stage, not saying that that's a stage for everyone to be at, you know, it's just a stage that I'm at this point in my life and in my career, because I realize that, because I do believe at certain stages you do have to have ambition. You do have to look and say, I want that thing, right? But now, at the particular stage that I'm at, I realize that if I keep my eye on a specific flag and for it to look a specific way, then I start to the other opportunities that might come my way, I won't see them. I'll blind myself to those other opportunities. And when I think about Gotham, for instance, Gotham is not a show that was starring me. It was at first a very small role, and it was a television show, okay? If I had been thinking, I'm not going to do any more TV, if I'm going to do TV, I need to be the star of it, I need to be doing movies, all these things in my head, right, that'll keep me in this box so that you can't see creative opportunities that come your way, right? And so that really dissolved the need for ambition and dissolved the need to have a specific goal. Same with Magic Mike. Same with Magic Mike. You know, you can have all these ideas in your head about what you should be doing, what your career should look like, versus what's coming my way that could give me an opportunity to expand, that could give me an opportunity to grow, that could give me an opportunity to have fun. Instead of thinking, I got to do this thing and look this way and get that flag. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Along the lines again of Gotham here, Stephania? Stephanie? Okay. Stephanie and, oh, I see. Okay. Stephanie and Senta? Is it a dual question? Okay.
Nice.
They worked on this. All right. So this is about Gotham, which we've talked about, but we haven't talked about what they're asking here is how did you create the character once you got into it, voice-wise, wardrobe-wise? How much did you put into it as the actor here coming into it?
A whole lot. She's a cross between Norma Desmond from Sunset Boulevard and Griselda Blanco. Does anybody know who Griselda Blanco is? She's a notorious female drug dealer, right? So I was thinking about I had to think of someone realistic, female-wise, that would have the kind of balls that Fish has, right? That would go up against like male, because that's a really tough world. I was like, who is a female, realistically, that I could kind of have a blueprint? And the only female I could think of was Griselda, because she was bad, okay? And then I was like, but I want her to have some fun, too. I want to be a theatrical. And so I was like, Norma Desmond. So I was thinking about Griselda, and I was thinking about how she grew up. And she had it really rough. And I was thinking about my own backstory and thinking about how a woman like that will create a persona for herself to cover up all that she thinks is ugly about her. So Fish Mooney created this very extravagant personality to deter herself and others from seeing who she really believed she was, which was just a dirty gutter chick. She wanted to forget that, and she never wanted anybody to know it. So she put on this grand, to kind of, as her facade, as her mask. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and the wardrobe.
The wardrobe, everything. The wardrobe, she always knows that sex is power. Breasts, butt, legs, especially with the men that she was dealing with in the game. She always needed them to pay attention to something else, so they never really, All this right here. Just keep looking right here.
Even with
You
one
know?
eye.
Even with one eye. You know? Even with one eye. Yeah, so she, you know, she had an interesting, this mix of danger and sex. Yeah, she had a real interesting mixture, that danger and sex game.
All right, now,
Keep everybody on their toes.
Catherine here. Catherine? Where's Catherine? Right there, hi. How is it different working in TV or film for you, or is there a difference?
I think the pace of television is so fast, right? You just have to have such a different muscle. I mean, literally, I realized that there were moments with Fish Mooney that I had to really catch myself from getting lazy, because it's like making a movie every week. So you get tired, literally. That acting muscle, you're just like, oh, I'm tired. You literally just want to phone in a scene, but you know you can't. You know what I mean? You know you can't, but that's what you really want to do. Whereas in movies, the pace is slower, so you have more time to like work out your character, work out the scene, and you know, you just don't, I never think about phoning in scenes in a movie. But baby, TV, whoo! Yeah, it's
Well,
work.
that's what Skype's for.
Yeah, it's like, you know, well, when you're on the set and you're just tired and you don't want to give 100%.
Yeah.
Because you did yesterday and the day before that, you know, but you have to. So it's like working a new muscle, you know, of just like really having to do the work that's necessary and stay in 100%. Yeah.
And when you sign on to do a series, you sign on, you know, for 5 years, 6 years, whatever it can be. And, you know, when you look at that, you go, do I really want to play this character for that long? Is that in your head when you do this stuff?
Well, lucky enough, I only signed for a year to play Fish Mooney. And, you know, yeah, I only signed for a year. So once we got that cleared up, it was all good, you know. I was like, okay, for a year, you know, but, you know, as you go throughout the year, even the kind of conditions that you are working in outside in the snow, you know, it's like, it just wears on you. It just wears you out. And, you know, I think that, but I'm grateful for it, because it's like when you go to movies, it's almost like a breeze. It's like, you know, when you go to the gym and you keep, you know, working a certain muscle and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger, you can put more weight on it. And then you just, by the time, you know, you turn around, you're like, dang, this 100 pounds right here ain't nothing, you know? It's that kind of, you know, it's that kind of workout, just acting-wise. So that's what I love about television. I love the muscle it works. To make good TV, you got to be on your game. That's real. Everybody involved. Writers, producers, actors, you have to be on, directors. To make good TV, it is such a fast pace versus movies. You know, movies, 100 and some odd pages, you got 3 months. Well, 100 some odd pages, you done shot that in 2 weeks on a show.
Yeah.
You know, so you really have to be on your game.
And TV's gotten so good
It's
now.
good. It's not a game. It's serious. There's a lot of competition. It's serious.
So many places to do it now.
So many places to do it. So much talent on television. Directors, writers, actors. You know, so you can't slip. You can't slip.
All right, so they're telling me I got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to do these fast. Kelly. Right here, hi.
Kelly.
Okay, your career started at a time when there was so much opportunity for African American actors in targeted demo projects. What advice would you have for an African American actress starting their career today?
There's a lot of opportunities now. Let me tell you, Taraji has changed the game on Empire.
Oh, isn't she great?
I just want y'all to know. They are green lighting all kinds of projects out here for African American women like it ain't nothing. So I would say, you know, make sure that you're staying on top of your craft so that when your opportunity comes, you're undeniable. You understand? So there's a lot of competition out here. So you always want to make sure you at the top. And that has everything to do with how you hone your craft, because the opportunity is there. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, Taraji, she like kills that show.
Let me tell you, not only does she kill it, but she really, I don't think anybody understands. You will see this year how many women of color are on TV, and it has everything to do with Taraji. Don't get it twisted. Okay? Of how Taraji through Empire has brought all kinds of audience. It's not just African American audience, it's everybody, you know, and because I'm listening to these studio heads almost every day, you know, she has really kicked the door open for women of color in a big way.
Wow.
Yeah, big time, big time, big time.
And we have a sequel to Kelly, another Kelly. Where's?
I had 2 questions.
Oh, this is you.
Oh, okay.
See, you were tricky because I'm looking. Wait, she wrote the name a little differently here. So you tricked me. Okay. Well, what advice would you give to your younger self? What would you say to 1988, Jada?
Woo! Baby, I understand a whole lot to the 1988 Jada. But I think in regards to acting and in regards to my career, I wouldn't have told her anything different. She did exactly what she was supposed to do, and that was take a big chance. And come out to LA and just go for it and not be afraid, you know? So I wouldn't have changed that at all. Now, if you want to talk about what I tell myself on a personal level. Yeah. But as far as, you know, the creative. Yeah. I told myself a whole lot of stuff.
And this Kelly. Oh, no, this is another one. Okay. Stacy, we sort of talked about this, but I'll ask, as Stacy asked, are there roles you haven't played that you want to play, and what are they? You know?
Yeah, there are lots of roles. You know, I just, as I said before, I'm open to anything now. I feel so good to be in that place right now in my life, to just be free of any kind of restriction of, like, you know, what everybody else thinks I might be doing or what I should be doing. It's like I'm just looking for some really wonderful roles to participate in with some wonderful people. I just want to have a good time. That's it. That's it.
That's a good way. And finally, I got the last question here is Trayvon McCall. Where's? Oh, hi there.
Hey.
What is your number? Oh, wait. No. Wait. Hold on. I read it wrong. What is your number one objective when you step on the set as an actor?
Oh, my number one objective. You know, my number one objective is to facilitate the project. You know, is like to bring whatever piece that I can bring to the project to make it what it's supposed to be, you know? And that's it. That's my only objective.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Let us thank Jada Pinkett Smith. Fantastic. Great. So good.
This is awesome.